Take a look at this headline. And I got to tell you from the very onset that the headline does not tell the whole story. Headlines generally do not tell the whole story. Otherwise, they'd be very, very, very long headlines. But the story doesn't tell you the whole story. I've seen this story on several different news venues, websites, and none of them told the whole story. But the video that we're going to watch in just a second does tell the story. The headline reads like this: Mayor 64 chases after robbers leading to arrest. What is missing? Well, what's missing is the mayor was a white woman. What's missing is this white woman mayor, they say, was a liberal. What they're not telling you is the robbers were black teenagers. How amusing is that? Well, I don't think it's amusing, but it's maybe we could get away with calling it ironic. All right, with that said, let's play the video.
Look at the top highlighted left-hand corner of your screen. That is 64-year-old Alice Birch, the mayor of Miami Shores. She's decked and hits the ground. Tuesday, she was in for the scare of her life when cops say she's approached by several guys with what looks like a gun. They take her purse. She chases after them.
It was dangerous, but I had a sense that he was a very young person and that he wasn't expecting to be chased. And if I hadn't chased after, I would not have been able to get the tag on the car.
That's right. She went after the suspects. It turns out they were armed with only a BB gun.
Miami Shores police are amazing. I knew this before I was ever elected to anything.
A detective right there in Miami Shores able to get 3 people in custody.
That's fairly impressive. I mean, we deal with a lot of crime victims, and you know, it's really a shock and factor for them when they become a victim of crime. So sometimes the information is only piecemeal and not entirely complete. But in this particular case, one of the key components was the initial getting of the tag of the vehicle for us.
But cops are still looking for this guy in the tie-dye hoodie. In fact, after the robbery, cops say 2 of the suspects used the mayor's credit card at a gas station. Cops are trying to identify this guy in the tank top, who they say changed out of the distinctive hoodie in the car.
We are working with some of our other close partners and agencies in the area that suspect these subjects involved in crimes in their cities as well.
Miami Shores police already dealt with another frightening robbery in that same shopping plaza several weeks ago. That was also caught on video. In that case, a woman had her wedding ring stolen. Cops made an arrest in that case as well. And they have this message.
If you come into Miami Shores and commit a crime, we are going to find you, and we are going to get you in jail.
All right. If you come to their city, they're going to catch you, and they're going to put you in jail. Well, good for them. I hope they do. But our story is not so much about the story, but our story is about the story that's not being told in the story. And what is not being told in the story is something that should be told in all these stories, but it's not. And that is, this is where we get into the concept of fake news. Folks, the media lies to us by omission. That is to say, what they don't tell us is a lie. They deceive us. Well, what are they not telling us? They're not telling us this. Well, first of all, you saw it in this video. Here's a white woman, 64 years old. She's not elderly until next year. She'll be 65. So they attack this almost elderly white woman and snatch her purse. But we also saw a story where another black thug, we can't call them black thugs, right? I mean, we saw it on video, where a black thug attacked another vulnerable white woman and stole her ring. All right, so what are we not being told? We are not being told that there is an epidemic of black on white crime in this country, and there has been for generations. Now, if you're a left-wing lunatic, or you just consider yourself a liberal, I want to give you a warning that I'm going to say a few things that is going to be extremely painful and going to cause you to go into withdrawal. I'm going to tell you the truth. It's going to hurt. It's going to be painful. So I'm just giving you a heads up. You might want to turn off your computer before your head explodes. Here are some things we need to keep in mind that the media is not telling us. First of all, we are led to believe that we live in a society where white people oppress black people. White people are the oppressors. Black people are the oppressed. White people are the bourgeois. Black people are the proletariat. It's a class struggle that is devised by the imaginations of cultural Marxism. That's not true. It's not real. White people do not oppress black people. You just saw it in the video. Black people were oppressing white people. What do white people do? Well, white people are innovators. Black people who live in America today, as evidence, have a higher standard of living of any black people anywhere on earth. Anywhere. Because of white innovation. In other words, white people don't oppress black people. White people, by way of their innovation, their free market economy, their rugged individualism, are enhancing the lives of non-white people everywhere, but especially black people who are privileged to live in our midst. We don't hate them. We don't discriminate against them. We discriminate against violent black people. But we don't discriminate against them. That's why there are so many black billionaires. That would never happen in a racist society, white racist society. Okay, for those liberals whose heads are still intact and have not yet exploded, let me say this. Black Americans have always enjoyed a higher standard of living of any black people anywhere on earth. Always. Now, some people say, well, what about the slave era? Always. During the slave era, black Americans lived in either log cabins or wood frame houses. Their health care was taken care of. Their food was taken care of. It was illegal to beat them, to abuse them physically. All right, compare that to sub-Saharan black Africans, which virtually, during the slave era, there were a few black people outside of sub-Saharan Africa, like Osei, Haiti, and South America, and a few in Britain, not very many. But the great bulk of black people lived in sub-Saharan Africa. But wherever they were, sub-Saharan Africa, South America, Haiti, wherever, as groups, black Americans had a much higher standard of living than any of those people. Why are black Americans not taught to be grateful? Well, because they were second-class citizens. Oh, wait a minute. I think we may still have some liberals with their heads intact have not yet exploded. So let's go on and share some more painful truth with them. Did you know that during the slave era, there were thousands of free black people who owned slave labor? Didn't hear about that in your history class, did you? You know that Roots narrative, the miniseries that was produced back in when, 77? I call that the Roots myth. It just isn't true. There were thousands of free black people who owned black slave labor. They didn't just own their relatives so they could free them. They owned slave labor. Thousands of them. We know that because of the every 10 years they took a census. Okay, did you know this? 1860. There was a guy by the name of William Ellison. You can Google it. William Ellison was a plantation owner in South Carolina. Not only so, he was the state's largest plantation owner, as determined by the number of slaves he owned. That is, he owned more slaves than anybody else in South Carolina in 1860. William Ellison was a black man. Did you know that? Did your history teacher tell you that the largest slaveholder in South Carolina in 1860 was a black guy? And I bet you they didn't tell you this. The first legal slaveholder in American history, Anthony Johnson, was a black man. The first legal slaveholder in American history was a black guy. Why do they not tell us these things? One more thing they're not telling you. You know, in the Roots narrative, you saw these evil white people go into sub-Saharan Africa, capture the Negroes, put them on the boat, bring them over here. That's not what happened. 90% of the sub-Saharan Africans who were brought to North America as slaves were not captured, they were purchased. They were already slaves owned by black chieftains, most of them, in sub-Saharan Africa. When white people went to Africa, they picked them up, purchased them. White people did not go into the interior and hunt them down and capture them, with a few rare exceptions. They bought them. Now, I sense there may be one or two liberals out there whose heads have still not exploded. So I got to tell you this. Maybe we can finish them off with this one. The truth of the matter is, for a black slave in Africa to be sold to be deported to North America was akin to winning the lottery. Why? Because in North America, you not only had to provide housing and shelter and food and health care, but it was illegal to abuse your slaves. Whereas in sub-Saharan Africa, slaves were property. The owners could kill them, and they often did. They frequently castrated the males. They murdered the children. They raped the women. Why? Because their lives were without value. Why? Because, well, there's a whole continent full of black people. If they lose one slave, they just go get some more. Not so in the United States, or what became the United States, North America. Okay, I think every single liberal listening, their heads have all exploded, so we can stop with that. So the point of all that is this. We are being lied to by omission. They're not telling us these things. They're not telling us that black on white crime is epidemic in the United States. For crying out loud, they attacked a 64-year-old white mayor and thought they could get away with it on video. And we see this epidemic played out before us, and we still are pretending it does not exist. Why? What do you do with people like me that tell you the truth? You can't argue with me because I just showed you the video. I cited facts from history. What are you going to do with me? Guess you're going to have to call me names because there's not a whole lot else you can do with the facts because facts are facts. Can't deal with them. Okay, you got to stoop to name calling. Call me a racist or something like that. But I'm not a racist. I'm the most anti-racist person in the world, and if you do call me racist, that makes you a liar. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you like what you saw. If you don't like it, give it a thumbs down. I don't care, it still helps. In the lower right-hand corner, there's a button that says subscribe. If you have not yet joined the thousands of people who have subscribed to our YouTube channel, please do so now. And I'll tell you why. Because of all the conservative websites out there, there are very, 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 very few who will tell you the truth about race because they are afraid of being intimidated. They're bullied into silence. Well, the problem with that is, folks, when we are silent, when the honest people are silent, then the only people talking are the liars. And sometimes they just lie by omission, like we saw in this story. Not just this news site, but across the board. Give us a thumbs up, share the video, don't forget to subscribe, and we'd like to hear your comments. Or I should say, read your comments. So tell us what you think in the comment section below.
Click the red button to subscribe.